Djuro, are you going to trade in your Cessna for a flying Gemini, my friend?
The Flying Gemini. Good morning, Tim. Well, I learned how to fly in a Cessna 150 172. I might trade it in for a flying Ute. I reckon that'd be fantastic. But yes, there's a prediction that by 2030 we'll be having flying cars. But it comes just a couple of days after or before we saw this happening, Tim. And this flight took place in Slovakia. And this is one of the best things we've seen in terms of flying cars. That looks like a car and a plane, and just look at it go. It goes 170 k's an hour. It can carry two people up to 200 kilos. So I don't know if it'll fit us in, Tim, but anyway, we'll try it out. And it's probably, as I said, the best sort of rendering of a vehicle that can work. So it takes, after you land, about 3 minutes, about 2 minutes 15 to be precise, to then fold up into a vehicle that you can drive on the road. And, you know, we've been trying this for a while now, but it looks really cool. And I know you just give it a couple of seconds and it actually does a reasonable job of going from flying aircraft back to a motor vehicle that you can drive around. So if you've got about 3 minutes to wait, you can do that. So this is a great example. Only a couple of days ago, they've been around for a while, as I said, in Slovakia, and there it is, cutting around the streets. So we could be flying after all.
Bond, James Bond. Now, we've been talking about flying cars, well, since the 1940s. Is this really going to happen? What do you think? That all looked pretty good, but it was nicely edited. How far realistically do you think we are before this becomes some sort of pragmatic thing in society?
Yeah, we're a long way off, Tim. You're right. From the 40s, you mentioned the Jetsons. I mean, how long have we been talking about flying cars? You know, the old saying is, where's my flying car? Because you want the future to be here. And it's an indication that we're in the future if we get a flying car. Look, we can make them. The only thing is about the rules and implementing them. So, one of the things I think will happen, and Hyundai, don't forget, they're building a transit system as well that they want people to fly in. And I think drones will actually be the things that we see first. So there'll be things like this from EHang. And I've spoken about these guys before. I've interviewed them. I've seen them in person, these aircraft at CES in Las Vegas. And they're starting to make some really good headway. These are autonomous though, Tim. So they're not a flying car, but they sort of do the same thing. You go to the airport, you jump in one of these, and a couple of minutes later, you're in the CBD at your building where you go island hopping and stuff like that. They've gone over open water. So this is one example of how I think the flying car will happen, not with the wheels at the bottom. But when you look at other options, I think you've got to look at things like gyrocopters. They're a combination. So they've got the wheels on the bottom, as you can see here. Now, this is a model that flew a couple of years ago. It's since been updated. So it's a gyrocopter with wheels, and then it all folds up and you cruise around. It actually handles itself pretty well on the road, as you can see here. But the thing is, Tim, that ain't going to fit us in it. No way.
No, maybe one of our arms. Australian researchers are warning self-driving car makers to be wary of attacks. What's this all about?
Yeah, so as self-driving cars become more clever, the issue is, and a warning from the Macquarie University computer team, interesting to see as we see some of the Waymo cars, which are really good, by the way. As you can see here, this car is driving people around right now in America with no one in the front seat. And there's no one to take over if something goes wrong. It's quite amazing. But the researchers are saying that they have to be careful that when cars update over the air, like a software update with your phone, that no one injects malware in there and it could possibly cause the car to, break out suddenly or do something else that's dangerous. Other things too, like you can this has been tested before, that several cars in an autonomous mode or various levels of it, like a sort of auto cruise or autopilot, can be fooled by things, reflectors on the road. So it's a timely warning that we need to make sure that as these autonomous vehicles develop, they have to make sure they build in structures, and this is part of the report from Macquarie University, that they have to make sure that they're looking out for things where people are deliberately trying to trick them. You could have an electronic sign, for example, and it could flash up just for a fraction of a second, a stop sign, and that makes the car stop on the freeway. Those sorts of things. So they need to be able to work that out.
Now, we discussed Windows 11 last week, but it now appears many of us might need new computers to run it. Tell me more.
Yeah, so I mentioned last week that you could download a tool or you could use a tool from Microsoft to work out if your computer could actually run Windows 11. And of course, it's the first users update, major update by naming it from 10 to 11 in 6 years. And Tim, the issue is that so many people tried that out and looked at the specs, and guess what? A lot of computers will not run it. And we're not talking about computers that are like 10 years old. We're talking about computers that might be 2, 4, or 5 years old that will not be able to run Windows 11. And you say, well, that's not a problem, just use Windows 10. Well, Windows 10 will eventually run out of service. So you want to get the latest and greatest software because it helps with security. So they've built in security levels and other things that have made it awkward for people to upgrade. It's coming later in the year, but people should be wary that maybe by the time it does roll out, end of the year, early next year, it might be time to upgrade your computer. But I do feel sorry for people who've got new computers and they might not be able to update to Windows 11. It's a movable feast though. Microsoft is sort of changing things, so hopefully more computers will be compatible. The news hopefully coming soon.
Tell you what, you've done a great job with your little studio there. I know that you're in there quite a lot, tinkering with your bunker. You've got a nice little background there, a new background.
Actually, Tim, it's is always here. It's just usually to the right or left of my TV. You wouldn't believe it. The TV went on the blink, so I had to move 45 degrees. But it's a pretty cool backdrop. I've got several of these, so I can point it to different colours and stuff like that to suit the mood. But you know, it's a pretty good setup in Maroubra, and I'm just doing what all the battles are doing here in Sydney, working from my home studio and doing my best, mate. I'd love to be out shooting stuff in the bush, but every time I go to plan that, Tim, there's a lockdown. So it's the gods are working against me.
I wouldn't call you a battler when it comes to tech. I would call you a geek in the nicest possible way. I would be the battler. Djuro, good to talk to you.
Great to talk to you, Tim.